Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sincerely Agile with Mary. As always, this is the show where we promote the lean agile mindset, where we learn, unlearn, and relearn, and of course, where we are awesome and wholesome together. Today, our topic is all about meetings, and we're asking the question, how expensive are your meetings? Now, pre-COVID, we've talked about both productive and unproductive meetings. Now we really need to be talking about how our meetings can be productive, especially when we're, mostly working remotely. I mean, it is difficult enough to have face-to-face, meetings and have them productively. How difficult is it these days to have productive meetings remotely? Now, to discuss this topic further, I've got someone who is so passionate about meetings. Not only is he passionate about meetings, he has gone as far as creating a deck of cards so that we can have productive meetings. So I'm just going to bring Dov to the screen. Hello, Dov.
It's so much fun to hear you talking.
How are you?
I'm great. And yourself?
Nice to have you on the show. I'm doing great. Nice to have you on the show.
My pleasure. Can we consider this show a meeting?
I guess so, Dov. And I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. Can we consider this show a meeting? Yes, this is a meeting right now. We're going to have such interesting conversation, right? Let me introduce you very quickly to my audience. Dov Tsal has been an Agile coach for the last decade and life coach for the past 2 years. Discovering that meetings are a great opportunity to understand and hack the dynamics of teams and organizations, he created the Meeting Spicer, a tool that helps teams connect, hack their culture, and have productive meetings. He's also the co-creator of the Agile Tao podcast with Peter Merrill, where they examine the connection between agility and Taoism through his book, The Agile Tao. Now, Taoism is a philosophy, it's a Chinese philosophy. Now, Dov, you're welcome to the show. Once again.
Welcome. Thanks a lot.
Once again, you're welcome to the show. Now, Taoism is a philosophical tradition of Chinese origin, which emphasizes living in harmony with the Tao. Now, I have worked with you. I worked with you for about, I think, 8 months in Brussels in an agile transformation. And my experience of you during this period is that this is such a philosophical guy. That was my impression of you. So when you started this podcast, I wasn't surprised at all. I wasn't at all surprised. Now, tell us, did this Taoism, sort of inform the creation of the Meeting Spicer in any shape or form?
In any shape or form, I'm sure it has.
Okay.
Basically, Taoism is the idea that everything is one. And if everything is one, then also a meeting is one. And the question is, how do we bring this oneness into being? How do we take a group of people who are not aligned in their intention, in their energy, and we tweak it a little bit so they're a little bit more in tune with this thing, one thing that happens here now, which is a meeting.
As you're talking, I'm thinking of a system. As you're saying, how can we make it one? I'm thinking of a system that is interconnected, a system that is aligned. Would that be correct?
Yeah, and the Tao says that everything in the world is one system, in fact. So that's the connection.
Fantastic. Let's just see who we have here. We've got a few people listening. We've got thanks, my sister, for what you do. That's my brother. We've got Grace from Abuja. Thank you for connecting. So let's go back to our questions.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Now, I've got a few statistics to share with you. Now, this is a survey by HBR, Harvard Business Review. 65% said out of 182 managers that were surveyed, 65% said meetings keep them from completing their own work. 71% said meetings are unproductive and inefficient. And 64% said meetings come at the expense of deep thinking. 62% said meetings miss opportunities to bring the team closer together. What's your take on these statistics?
So if I'll be cynical, I say only 71%.
You think it should
But
be
but
higher?
but yeah, but seriously, like questions like this have a tendency to be very flat. Like when you say meetings keep me from completing my work, I would ask you, what is your work exactly? Like what is this work that it blocks you from doing, right?
Yeah.
When you say meetings are productive or inefficient, it's interesting. And my answer would be, who is responsible for this efficiency? Who is the owner of this meeting? Well, then I have
Mhm.
to make sure that my battery will not run out, right?
We really
That's
need to have this meeting. You can't
yeah,
afford to
it's
have
great.
a bad battery.
Okay, so in expense of deep thinking is an interesting one. What shall I say? Um, I have a tip for this if you want. I
Okay.
think that a lot of times meetings, especially you said that they ask managers, managers usually run from meeting to meeting,
Yeah.
and they don't have this dream time to think what happened and take a break and let deep thinking doesn't happen when you talk. It happens when you're silent. Eh, And for this, I blame Google and Microsoft that the default of a meeting is that it starts in around hour and it takes 1 hour. And both Microsoft and Google have an option to define in the calendar short meetings that take 55 minutes. So by default, when you book a meeting, it will take 55 minutes and it will give you 5 minutes to just breathe and process and do this deep thinking that you're yearning for, especially for the things that you just talked about. And the other one, opportunities to bring the team closer together. I think we will see how to do this with the Spicer, but it's also because the format of meetings today is very traditional. So I'm sure that you heard of liberating structures.
Oh, yeah.
Currently, the default structure of a meeting is one person talking and everyone listening. Even now, I'm talking and you have no choice but to listen, right? And when you talk, I shut up. And when we're a lot of people, there's no connection when there's only one voice in the room. So this is one by one. I gave you my response to all four.
Absolutely. And that's a very good response. And I like the fact that you said, managers are running from meeting to meeting. And we see that all the time. We see that. In fact, sometimes they don't even have enough time to grab a sandwich. You see them grabbing a sandwich and running to the next meeting. And of course, like you said, because we don't have enough time in between meetings, enough time to have that opportunity to just have a moment and to think deeply. Now, meetings can ideally present a great opportunity to hack an organization's culture. Can you explain that further, please?
I can try. Um, I think an organization is not a collection of people, just like a brain is not a collection of neurons, right? The function of the brain is not a function of how many neurons you have or how strongly they pulsate. It's the connection between them. And the same thing is for an organization. The thing that makes an organization breathe, live, find purpose, work effectively is the alignment between everyone. And meetings are, I think, the most important way for people to align, for people to hear each other, to agree, to disagree, to create a vision. So that's the explanation.
And to connect essentially, because as you were talking, I was just thinking about a team. So essentially, you can have a group of people, but they are not essentially a team, so to speak. So there is no connection, there is no alignment, there's no psychological safety, if you like. Is that correct?
But, you said it.
Okay, let's start looking at your meeting spicer, because we've talked a lot about how meetings are so unproductive. And just before we look at your spices, here's a shocking statistics. 37 billion wasted due to unproductive meetings. There's been a lot of write-up about these problems and wastages associated with meeting, but why is it still happening? Is it because of what you just said? There's no connection, or we just plan meetings and plan meetings without meeting with intent? Why is this still happening?
So first of all, I think we can doubt the numbers. Like when someone says that the meeting is not effective, we can question what effective is. People meet because meeting serves a purpose, right?
Okay.
So there is something that makes this communication necessary. But I think the problem is that culture is really hard to change. And when you know that a meeting is a certain way, when you know that a meeting happens in a meeting room, let's go before COVID, okay, and a meeting room looks like this, right? The meeting room is a room that has a big table, has chairs around it. And even when we meet now remotely, we have this image, in our head that we superimpose on the people there, and we have a structure, right? We have an agenda, and we have like all of these things that we think a meeting should be made of, and we don't challenge that. And just like in other things, like we can talk about Scrum or agility, whatever, people get too fast into the how before they understand what do they want to achieve.
Okay.
And it's a matter of habit. And when I invite all of these managers to look at their agenda and see how many meetings have the name of weekly. Okay, weekly meeting means we have to meet. The purpose is, I don't know, but we know that we meet every week. And it's hard even to think that you can challenge this, that you can say, perhaps we don't need a weekly meeting. What do I want to achieve out of it? Like one way that I wanted to start this conversation is to ask everyone who's listening, and you and me, to think of a question. We're entering now a meeting.
Okay.
What do I want to achieve in this meeting? What do I expect to get out of this meeting? And what would I love to have in this meeting? And after we pose this question, just to have silence,
Okay.
to let people think and let the question seep in.
Okay.
Okay.
Do
So
you want to
let's
show
take
us one
that.
card?
Why I can show
Card?
this card if you want.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So like
Ask
this is
everyone to think silently for 20 seconds. Okay. Okay.
yeah, which is
Okay.
exactly this one, right?
Okay.
What outcome do I expect from this meeting, and what outcome would I love to have? And now let's take 20 seconds of silence and just think about this question. Okay. And when you're done, you don't have to answer. It just for everyone to be grounded, to enter the meeting in a way that makes you mindful to your purpose, to connect you to your sense of purpose. And not only this, it's also for me to see that you had the same experience as I. So I know that now you thought, what is my purpose in this meeting? What do I want to get as well? So it creates some sort of harmony between everyone that enter this space. Now we're a little bit more aligned. Like I said before, alignment is important. This is an example of alignment.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, Dov, is that it's only 20 seconds.
Yeah.
It is only 20 seconds, but in that 20 seconds, of course, we can really think about a whole lot. And I like the fact that it's silent and it helps us to think of what we really need to get out of the meeting and the alignment it creates, like you said. And given that it is only 20 seconds, we should do it more often. We should do it
Not
more
too
often.
often, but we will talk about that. Yeah.
That's why I said more often, maybe not too often, but often enough.
Yeah.
Okay. What else can you show us? Because I know your meeting spice talks about a whole lot of stuff that we can do before we start a meeting and things we can do when we end a meeting. Now, you have just shown us something we can do just before we start a meeting. And I want to believe that now that we are working remotely, it becomes even more important to be intentional and to be mindful, given that we're working remotely, because there's another layer of complexity and difficulty with remote working, because we don't have that face-to-face privilege anymore where you can read body language and all of that. So we need to make that extra effort to be much more intentional with mindfulness. Am I correct?
Yeah. And I think I'm not sure that I agree with you that like we have a lot of stuff removed from our old habit of to have a meeting face to face, in the same space. But we have also a lot of tools that are added. Like we use whiteboards together.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to do voting, like the some depends what tool you use, thumbs up, thumbs down, heart, whatever. Like you see, I have the here over here. I have the heart thing that I put when someone says something I like. I put a heart on the screen. I can't do this in a real meeting. Like it's too
Which
gadgety.
is
But
true.
here it's a new territory, so you can play around on the screen with stuff. We should be mindful to the fact that there's a lot. I'll give you a small example of something that I discovered. If I tell a joke in live and people laugh, I see that I hit a chord. But here, if I say something funny and you laugh in a small delay that may make me think that I didn't struck the right chord, the right chord, right? So we should be mindful to the fact that we have a small delay between us, like it's about I don't know, fifth of a second, something like that, that may make conversation awkward. Two people start talking at the same time, and each one of them thinks that he started before the other. There's something to understand there in the tool, but I think that this tool, this new, it's already not new, by the way of communicating has a lot of power. Like in a big meeting room, you can't focus on the person talking who is perhaps 10 meters away from you. Here you can just click and see their face clear, as long as people understand that their face should be clear on the screen, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we should be more mindful. I don't know, but it's great to be more mindful, and this is a bigger opportunity than we had before. But it brings a lot of new tools that I think are slowly entering into the mainstream.
Yeah. I
So
totally agree
I don't
with that.
remember the question, but did it answer the question?
Yeah, well, you did, because what has happened here is that, yes, we are no longer having, well, where some people are still having face-to-face meetings, but we're working more remotely now. And we may have lost some face-to-face, activities, but I totally agree with you that we now even have more things that we can do leveraging the tools. Like you said,
Yeah.
I can zoom in on the person talking. I can zoom in on different people at different times. I can use emojis, which we would never have used in a face-to-face environment before. we can play, we can do, I mean, like you said, we use a lot of whiteboard these days. I mean, thank God for Mural. Before my meeting, I've set up my Mural board. I have planned some things in advance. Of course, if it's an agile meeting, you know, all those agile activities that we do. I absolutely love those whiteboards. I love the interactivity, and I love the fact that you can bring a lot of fun into
Yeah,
it.
and
So yes,
polls, you can run polls on the screen, right? You like,
yeah,
and the problem is with the tools. I wanted to say should, but I won't say should. It's an opportunity for you
yeah,
to think again. What is your purpose? Because when you have so many tools,
mm,
your sense of purpose might be lost even more. And I think the key to an effective meeting is to be mindful on what do we as a team want to achieve here. Like I read an article by Seth Godin last week. He said, how do we use this precious opportunity that we are all here together, that all the right people are in this room to make the right decisions. But if we meet here and we didn't think what are the decisions that we are here to make, then we're not the right people.
yeah.
Then what are we doing here? And now we're forced to fill, because on the agenda it says 1 hour, we have to fill 1 hour, right?
Yeah, but I really don't agree with the fact that you have to fill 1 hour. I mean, because as an agile coach, one of the things we're trying to do every time we meet, even without the meeting spicer, I'm sure the meeting spicer is awesome. I want to make sure I'm meeting with intent. I want to make sure I have an agenda. I mean, I know there are some meetings where you don't need an agenda, like, you know, your lean coffee and stuff like that, you know, agenda-less meeting where you want the agenda to emerge. There are opportunities for that. But as an agile coach, sometimes depending on what you want to achieve, you want an agenda. So for me, if we finish at 50 minutes, I'm not going to be looking for stuff to fill the time with. And
Yeah.
I must go into a meeting knowing that I have an outcome in mind.
You said one keyword which is important here.
Yeah.
You said I, you said me. So, and this is why a lot of these attempts fail. Because when I enter a meeting, do I have the right to set the agenda? Do I have the right to say, let's leave this meeting because we have no purpose? No,
I like
I
that.
didn't set the agenda. And even if I did, there are political things that block me from challenging this, right?
But don't you think it will depend on the kind of meeting? Because, for example, as an agile coach, sometimes I'm going into a meeting because I want to teach. I'm going into a meeting because there are certain things I want to achieve, but it's about co creation. I totally agree. I may have used I and we, but it's not really about me, it's about
No,
us.
no. So perhaps I didn't get my point across. Um, most meetings don't have an agile coach in them. Do we agree?
Oh, no, of course. I was
Okay.
just talking from my
Yeah.
perspective.
So what I'm saying is, let's say I'm a participant in a meeting. I was summoned to this meeting. I don't know why, by the way, but I was, and I'm mandatory. There's something interesting also about what do you do to get someone to a meeting? You send them an invitation, right? An invitation, last time I checked, is something that you can say no to, right? If someone invites you to a party, then you can say, it's okay, but I have other plans. And invitations in organizations are not really invitations. And like Dan Mesick talks a lot about this power to invite, like make your invitation real invitations. Allow the people not to come and see who doesn't come. It's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm in this meeting and I don't have the power to challenge this meeting, which is in Zoom, and the person who's talking 50% of the time says some stuff and which I find pointless. How can I challenge this?
Hmm.
How can I get out? I'm sort of a prisoner in the system.
Hmm.
Okay. And that's why I'm saying you said but this is the eye of the people who can change something. And
Yeah.
most people who participate in the meeting, by the way, sometimes even all of them, are prisoners of this system that called them into this meeting. And this is why I say a meeting of 1 hour, if you're able to make it a meeting of 5 minutes because everything was said, it's awesome. Yeah, but it depends not only on you, it depends also on the agreement of the whole team that is around you, virtually around you, to comply by the rules, right? To say so you say, okay, so are we done? Can we? And people will feel awkward. They will not say yes, right? Because there's some risk there.
There is a risk there, and everybody seems to want to comply because it's not. Is that because it's not a safe environment?
I think safe is binary. I think it's not safe enough. Yes, there's always the risk of being an outcast, the risk of being someone, that you don't want to say. You can say something strange, but not too strange, right? Even how dare you? We're here in a meeting of 1 hour, and now you say, let's have 20 seconds of silence, right? Someone, Stella said, silence is a powerful tool. To suggest 20 seconds of silence takes guts, right? And this is part of why I created this tool, by the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that is quite powerful. 20 seconds of silence. Very, very powerful. Now, Dov, can you run us through some more of your spices?
Yeah. So, but first, I'd love to explain the idea behind the spicer is this: if we would have the power to change the format of a meeting completely, if now instead of having I don't know what a team meeting of 20 people, we could go into breakout rooms and do some liberating structures, do something that breaks the habit, I think it would be great. But it requires one, someone who does the design before, and two, to break the format takes guts. So my idea was this: people book a meeting of 1 hour and they wait for 5 minutes for everyone to arrive. So what is one more minute? And what
Exactly.
I thought of is, let's take just 1 minute, and that's the pretext of the meeting spicer is, give me 1 minute of your meeting time and I will help you hack your meeting culture. Okay. And the idea is, at the beginning of every meeting, take one random card from the deck, and there's a big deck, like it looks sort of like this, and it's a big deck of mostly activities to start and to end the meeting. So like we saw one before, right? 20 seconds of silence and think, what do I want to get out of this meeting? Another card. Let's just go through them one by one. Okay. So let me get my glasses.
Can you quickly attend to this question on the screen before you do that? Someone is making a comment. So pretty much a summons to the meeting, not an invitation.
Yes.
But you said we can say no. But is it safe enough to say no?
Yeah, and again, the word "can" is elusive. Yes, we can, and there's consequences there, right? It's very loud. To say yes is a very is the default, right? If you say no, you have to justify why you don't. And I think the lower you are in the hierarchy, the harder it is to say no. It's very visible for you. No, when you say no, you're more visible than when you say yes. Right?
Absolutely.
Where is Marie? Where is David? They were invited. What happened? You see, like it's a. So here's another one. So another one of this series of silence, right? Ask everyone to think silently for 20 seconds. Am I ready for this meeting? And how did I prepare? And again, just like before, no need to answer. It's just a space of 20 seconds that everyone thinks of this question. And there's a purpose and there's a meta purpose. Okay, so the purpose is I would like people to think about this thought for 20 seconds, and I would love everyone to think together about this, right? So next time, perhaps it will nudge me to prepare a little bit more if I feel that I didn't prepare enough. If I prepared, it will help me take 20 seconds to review what I prepared, so I'm a little bit more prepared for this meeting, right?
Yeah.
This is one. Two, it's a way, as I said before, to align all the participants, because now everyone went through the same experience. Everyone asked themselves the same question, and it helped them a little bit to leave what happened before behind them, to be more present here. Just because not because of the specific question, just because they shared the same experience. And the third thing is the element of chance. So what I do usually, before I enter a meeting, I select 5 or 6 cards and I ask people, can you pick a number between 1 and 5? And I count the cards before them. So there's some element of chance. There's a random thing. So let's say we didn't start on time, and let's say that the card said, did we start on time? If not, what's the delay? And then ask the team, is it important? If I ask it in a normal meeting, it's risky because it's now me against the person who organized this and didn't start on time. But if the gods of chance just picked this card, I'm not responsible. It's just the gods picked the card, and it may be a card that's good or bad, or there's some card that says today we don't use a mobile phone, so put your phone on silent and put it away.
The
I
the
didn't
gods
tell you
pick
to
the
do that.
card. I like that. The gods pick the card. I
Yeah,
like
it's
that
okay.
one.
Okay, so these two ideas of one, you practice, 3 ideas in fact. One, you practice. 2, you meta practice, right? Because you practice how to practice a new thing every time. And so even 4. Okay, 3 is that we all share the same experience. And 4, there's a delegation of responsibility. It's not, no, I don't take the responsibility in the activity that we do today. It was, in fact, it was you who told me number 4 that did it. It's not me. Okay, I
This was
didn't tell
my
you
fault.
to in a normal meeting to shut up, to not use laptops today. Or there's another card that people really like that says today's meeting will end 5 minutes ahead of time. Okay, I didn't say it. Okay, so
Awesome.
that's the idea behind these activities. Let's see some more. Yes, so this was the one about preparation, and this one is the outcomes, and this one is nice. Okay, so we can start a meeting like this. Ask everyone, ask someone who you think knows. Where's the focus? There will be focus. In one phrase, what is the purpose of this meeting? And please do not use the words talk, meet, update, or think. Okay? So the purpose is not to talk and not to think. What is the purpose? And now you pick someone in the room. You have to be brave, but you have to because the cards told you so. Okay? Or this one is also nice. He asked everyone to think silently for 20 seconds. Is my participation mandatory? Is it optional? And what's my role here? Which is an easy question, but if now you put 20 seconds of silence, there's something heavy in this question, and now you have no choice because it's not that you think while people are talking, right? So what's my so me, like, I think, yeah, I guess my participation for sure is mandatory, because if I wouldn't come here, you would be stuck without me, right?
Yeah.
And the people who are there say, yeah, I guess it's optional, so what's my role here? And it creates some space for
Yeah.
people to position themselves. What am I playing? If this is a game, what is exactly my script? Okay, or I don't know. Let's pick some more.
And
Just
now this then increases our level of commitment. If you feel you have a part to play, then there's that sense of I am part of a system and I want to play my part within the system. I've got to be committed to the system. Am I correct?
in fact, you always have a part in the system.
Yeah.
It makes you aware of what is the part that's expected of you and what's the part that you are ready to play.
Yes, I have a part in the system, but I'm saying it raises my level of commitment,
Yes.
perhaps.
Or it puts focus on your disengagement. Like I imagine someone who does this and says, in fact, I have no clue what I'm doing here. So there's another card that you can choose by at random, right? That says, let's try this today, the law of 2 feet. And again, it's my autofocus. Anytime you're in a meeting where you're not contributing nor getting value, it's your responsibility to use your 2 feet and find a place where you can. And now it was renamed to the law of 2 clicks, right? Because in 2 clicks you can get out of the
You
meeting.
can get out. Absolutely. I love that one
And
even
and
better.
and when you read this in the beginning of the meeting, I assure you that no one will get out. But this image is in the air, right? And now whoever is speaking and whoever is present has some virus in their mind, like they heard something interesting. They heard someone say, even if the organizer doesn't agree, that there is something called the law of 2 feet that says if you don't bring value, it's up to you to bring value elsewhere. So if I don't go elsewhere, it means that I think I bring value. What is this value? Okay, and there's a lot of cards like this. I won't go through the whole deck. It will take us more than 2 hours, I think. But
Of course.
I can give you a few ideas of how to end the meeting if you want. So like I can
Absolutely.
show
That
you.
would be nice.
So when we started, as I said, what I do is it's sort of a magic trick. Like I don't explain too much. I just say, would you mind half a minute? Do you mind? Pick a number between 1 and 5. 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So this is the card of today. Not too much of preparation and permission, because 30 seconds are nothing. Okay, and at the end it's the same. So before we end, do you mind that I show you a magic trick? Pick a number between 1 and 4, and the card can be something like this. And like this is, I think, my favorite card. Ask everyone to think silently for 20 seconds. The autofocus will come. Opa, will I
Will I?
remember this meeting tomorrow, in a week, in a month, and what will I remember?
Yeah.
And now this silence, it makes it awkward, but it's also like, I think it's a small gift for people to just calm their minds and just to echo what they just heard and think about it. Okay, and this is like a lot of thought went into this. I can talk about that as well. Or this one, when you end the meeting, ask everyone to think silently for 20 seconds. How do I feel now compared to the start? Did the meeting energize me? Did it train me? How come? And again, don't say anything. And why not say anything? Because if you know that you have to say something, it won't allow you to think what you want to think. You try to think an answer that is presentable. So just take the time and think, and it's time for yourself, not for the other people. Or a remote kudos. Here, this one. Do you want to thank someone on the other end of the line? So what a great way to end the meeting. And there's a lot of practices like that. And the idea is that, it's just like most attempts to change things fail in proportion to how big they are. Okay, so if you say from now on, let's do this and this and this, well, let's have every time an agenda and start on time and end on time, and no one speaks more than 3 minutes, and we use a whiteboard and whatever, it will last for about 2 weeks.
Not
Okay,
sustainable.
and once it breaks permanently because
Yeah.
it's too big an effort. And this is a way to ease, to just introduce questions. And I don't know if you noticed, but there's no judgment here. So when I say, did we start on time? I'm not saying you should start on time. There's a card saying, will we have an agenda? Will we have a summary? If yes, who will write it? And if no, do we need it? I have no clue if you need an agenda or if you need a summary or not. I'm just trying to remind you that it's part of the things that are components of a meeting that you can use if you find them useful. But I don't want you to skip them out of ignorance. And on the other hand, if you do everything at once, it doesn't work, right? So I would like to inject some habits to you in very small doses, doses of 20 seconds. So that's the idea. And there's a lot more, but let's take.
And that is what I actually picked from this, that it's just a matter of, introducing things in a very subtle way, very, very subtle way, and in just splits, a few seconds here and there. And it's very subtle. And another thing I absolutely love about this deck of cards is that it's the gods. It's the gods that are telling us what to do. It's not Dove, it's not Mary, it's the
But
gods.
I'll tell you a secret. So, like, if you know magic, you know that you can force cards on people, right? You can count whatever number and then pick the card that you want. But also on a more fair level, as I said, when I start a meeting or before the meeting ends, I pick the cards. Like I pick 4, 5, 6 cards that are pertinent for this space. No,
Yeah.
I won't pick a card that says, now everyone, can you just summarize in one sentence what is your action item if it's a meeting of 30 people, or if it's a meeting like this, right? So as a coach, you have the chance to to see what are the cards that will be interesting for this meeting, but don't try all of them. Take
No,
just
no, you
one at
can't.
random. Like you don't want, and that's what I said before. It's very risky to change the agenda of the meeting, to say instead of having a normal, I don't know what, a normal a weekly update, now we will have an open space. It's if you don't have an experienced facilitator, it's a recipe for failure.
Serious.
But to say, let's have our normal update meeting, but just let's take 30 seconds and just I read one card. That's all my role here. It's not complicated, and the cards don't change your agenda.
No, it
They
doesn't.
don't say do it differently. So there's less risk in trying them, and my hope is that the more people try them slowly, they manage to challenge the consensus of how they run their meetings.
Wow. I absolutely love this deck of cards. I
Me
absolutely
too.
love this fact.
And one thing I forgot, and I have to mention, it is something that I created, but I have a great partner who is Regis, who you know, right? You don't know Regis? Regis
No,
Schneider. So, and we do this project together. So all of
yeah.
these nice graphics and everything is, and
Mhm.
also much more.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Great stuff. Great stuff. I mean, for people who are watching, people are already asking where can they get this deck of cards. And I love the fact that, from the deck, you can almost, I mean, what you just said is that you can pre-plan the ones you pull out based on the type of meeting you want to have. So, for example, I could go through the cards and sort of like pull out like 6 cards from the starting meeting and another 6 from the ending the meetings, because I am thinking ahead and because I know the kind of meeting I'm going to be having. Because obviously some cards are better suited to certain meetings, right? Is that correct?
I don't know if it's a type of meetings. It's more when you know where you're going. So it's not
Okay.
like these cards are suitable for a stand-up, these cards are suitable for retrospective. It also depends on the team and the dynamics. I just want to show you two small things. One is to help to sort the cards. We have these peppers that are
Mhm.
green or yellow or red, according to the level of spiciness of the cards, if you want. So like if you
Okay.
want to, if you have a meeting that you don't want to be too risky, pick the green ones. Okay. And the
Okay.
other thing, which I don't know if you noticed or not, but when I show it to the screen, I read it without any problem. And this is because all cards of this version, that is a
Mhm.
version for remote meetings, are printed on both sides. So when I
Yeah.
show it to the camera, I can
Yeah.
also read it.
Yeah,
So this
fantastic.
is,
A lot of thought has gone into this, Dove. A lot of
I,
thought. I mean, like I said, I have worked with you. We worked in Brussels together, and I always saw you as a very unique person. You were always so philosophical. So I'm not surprised at all at the product you have developed for us to connect more, and have more productive meetings. So if you want this deck of cards, and I think you should get them, he's got the free version on meetingspicer.com, but that is not the full deck. That is not the full deck. If you want the whole, deck, you will have to pay for that. But however, you can get a sample of some of the, red parts and, starting a meeting and ending a meeting. You can get that online. What else can we ask you, Dov? Now, I really want to ask you this question, if you don't mind, please.
ask
Now,
me.
as an agile coach, one of the complaints we get a lot are teams saying, we have too many meetings already. We have too many meetings already. Now we are going to be working the agile way, and we know agile comes with its own ceremonies and all those meetings. People are anxious. There's always that anxiety about more meetings. How do you go about that?
Hola. So first of all, how do you?
I want to hear from you.
Yeah. So
And then I can tell you what I do.
there's a lot of things there to unpack. First of
Mm,
all, when now we're starting to talk about Scrum, in Scrum, these meetings replace all the other meetings. So the first selling point is no more weekly updates and no more updates weekly and no more stuff like that. The, the only meetings we have are the meetings that are in this catalog that comes with Scrum. But the second thing is the ownership of this meeting now passes to you. So all of these meetings, they're there to serve a very clear purpose.
mm,
So a stand-up is there for you to hear each other and align on what you're doing. And if you feel that they're a waste, it means that you have to talk about it and change it. Or that perhaps you're not a team. And it's important to know that, right? Because there's a lot of teams that you do your work and I do my work, and there's no real connection between us. So how come we are defined as a team? Perhaps we're not a team.
mm.
Okay, planning is the same. If while we're planning, half of the time you're bored and half of the time I'm bored, probably we're not a team. And if we're both involved, then we are involved. Okay, so as I said, the second thing is connect to your sense of purpose.
Mm.
And the third thing in Scrum or in Agile in general is the owner of the meeting is not your manager or Scrum master or whatever you want to call it. The owner of the meeting is the team.
Yeah.
And I saw already teams that said, we don't know why we do the stand-ups. And what we said, I think it was someone that we both worked with. He said, okay, so let's not do a stand-up for one sprint and see what happens.
Yeah.
And they got back to a stand-up, which is much better after that. Okay, so one, discuss the ownership. Two, connect to the purpose. And three, remember that it replaces all the bulk of meetings that you had.
Absolutely. That is it. Review the meetings you had before and see, which ones can replace the old meetings you have, and just look at the purpose of your meeting. Why are you meeting? Because sometimes people just meet out of habit.
Yeah.
These so-called weekly meetings, they just meet out of habit.
And we talked about this right before we met, like before we started this.
Yeah.
I think instead of this 1 hour, in one sentence, we can just solve all of the problems of the meeting. Is connecting to your purpose, is understanding why are we having this meeting, what do we want to solve.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're coming to the end of our meeting and we are not using the whole hour.
No, but we can ask people if they have questions.
Of course, I'm just trying to see the comments to see if we have any questions. I've been showing their questions. Organism versus organization. These cards are brilliant and would help to add variety to team meeting and team members. Absolutely. Any questions? Any other questions, guys? If you have any questions, we've got 7 minutes left. Please fire away.
As we talk about the deck, and I didn't show you the full deck, we also have one important thing, which is why meetings don't run well, is because no one takes this card. Like, no one takes this role. No one says, I am the host here. And if this meeting doesn't go well, it is my role to do something about it. So we have a lot of cards like this, 5 or 6 cards with different roles of timekeeper and scribe and stuff like that. And this is another activity that you can do in the beginning of the meeting to say, who wants to take what card?
At the beginning.
And another one, like we have time cards. We have there's a lot of other small things, but I think the main one is what I've shown.
Stella, you can get the cards online, meetingspicer.com. You can get the free version and you can actually buy the deck. I'm definitely getting myself a deck. This is just awesome. The reasons behind all those cards is just so powerful. It is unbelievable because the subtle nature of how you introduce these new practices, and over time, it starts to become, second nature. It's not difficult to do. Like you said, if you say, oh, don't bring your phone, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, it's almost unsustainable. But this 20 seconds here, 20 seconds there, and it has the power to help you achieve productive meetings. I mean, this should be a bestseller. Dov, I can't thank you enough.
If anyone wants, you can contact me on LinkedIn, and usually I respond, and even nicely.
He responds like that. So please contact him on LinkedIn. He's a great guy. I've worked with him. He's just an awesome guy. And thank you so much, Dov, for investing your time on Sincerely Agile with Mary this Sunday evening. To our audience, always showing up every Sunday, I cannot thank you enough for your time. Thank you so much. See you next Sunday, same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Take care and thanks a lot.